Hello, welcome to our virtual seminar, Effective and Affordable Digital Legal Marketing, brought to you by the Practice Management Resource Center at the State Bar of Michigan. I'm your host, Joanne Hathaway. All attendees are in listen-only mode without video activation. We do encourage your questions, so please type them in the Q&A pod. They will be answered either during or at the end of the session. Your questions can be listed as anonymous by checking that option inside the pod. We are so fortunate to have a nationally recognized speaker with us today, Guy Sakalakis. I'll now turn programming over to Guy by asking him to share some information about himself. So Guy, over to you.
Great, Joanne. Thanks so much for having me. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in today. As Joanne mentioned, please do submit questions through the Q&A. I love these to be more interactive, and I'd love to answer your specific questions than to just talk at you with some slides. So with that said, effective and affordable digital legal marketing, a little bit about me. I'm a licensed Michigan attorney. I haven't practiced since 2008. I founded a digital agency. I'm also a advisor to some legal tech companies and have a podcast, and I'm on the planning board for the ABA Tech Show. So I've really lived at the intersection of technology and law practice for the last, 12 years. And I help lawyers try to understand what they can do online to help position themselves to earn business. So, the real theme of this presentation is really focusing on what we've found to be the most effective and also most affordable. As you probably have run into, there's a lot of ways to spend money. I'm going to focus on things that you can do yourself. So they're either free or they're very limited cost. The investment, of course, is your time. But before we get into all the tactical stuff, you have to nod to this astronaut here. About great experiences, because no matter what you do, if you're not thinking about things through the experience of your clients and potential clients, it's not going to matter how much money you spend on AdWords. It's not going to matter how many links or SEO that you do. You've got to focus on their experience first, from their first impression of you all the way through to when they hire you, and then even through representation, because it all really does work together. The most obvious example of that is that great customer client experiences lead to positive reviews. Positive reviews are part of the expectation mix of what legal services consumers to be able to see about you. So I think a lot of lawyers know that. Word of mouth has been around since lawyers have started lawyering. But the ways in which that word of mouth spreads now, that's really what's changed the most. And so we're going to focus on some of the ways that you can help to improve that experience and get your happy clients singing your praises online. Another person, a marketer much smarter than I am, talks about clusters. This is from Seth Godin's blog. Essentially, again, this is the type of thing where it's like what's old is new, but people gravitate to people that are in these clusters, whether it's your local community, or whether it's some kind of affinity group, or something that is an interest or something you're passionate about. And so finding these clusters, both in real life as well as online, is a big part of the value of trying to build professional relationships and using web and communications technology. And so this idea of that we're all connected, but the future is local, I think it really is rings true with me. And we see this whether we're doing social media, social networking campaigns, or advertising campaigns. Proximity for most practice areas does matter a lot to the legal services consumer. So the most classic example of that is in the personal injury space. I'll talk to PI lawyers and they'll say, oh, for the right client, we'll go anywhere in the state. But the truth is, you got to think about things through your potential client and client's lens, and proximity matters to them. Locality matters, even all the way down to things like choosing phone numbers that you're using on your site, area codes, that kind of stuff. All that stuff makes a difference in that impression that the legal services consumer's mindset. And so I want you to be thinking about this, kind of just some background thinking as we're going through some of these more tactical examples. So I'm not a francophone, but I will attempt to say this. Plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. The more things change, the more they remain the same. And the point here is that as we go through all of this stuff, all this technology and digital stuff, at the core of your practice, as hopefully you already recognize, it's still about reputation and relationships. No, it's the who you know, your net worth is your network. All we're going to do is talk about some of the ways that you can help amplify people talking about your reputation and making new connections that you can nurture, solidify from a professional development standpoint. And so where does it all begin? It all begins with understanding your audience, kind of marketing 101. And this is a part that a lot of businesses and lawyers and marketing people skip over way too fast. Like the example I gave before with personal injury, if someone's hurt and they're in my state, they're a potential client. It's like, that's not really how you want to think about your target audience. You want to dig deeper, whether you think about it in terms of like a niche audience or a very specific practice area, or maybe you serve a specific group of people, but go deep on understanding who that target audience is, who that average ideal client is. That's going to go a long way in helping you craft digital messaging that's going to resonate better and perform better and get you better return on investment, return on ad spend. So there's a Clio, which is a law practice management tool. They put out this annual report called the Legal Trends Report. There's a link here, and I'm sure you'll have, if you haven't already, you can have access to the deck. But if you just search for Clio Legal Trends Report, they've been doing this for a few years. And one of the things that they study is how people go about finding and hiring lawyers. And so, about roughly half go through a referral, a roughly half search on their own, 16% did both. And the real point here is that we know that referral-based practices that's still core to having a successful practice. But I think a lot of lawyers don't recognize that, for a variety of reasons, a lot of people will search on their own. So whether that's they don't even know they need a lawyer, or they're dealing with a life legal issue that they're uncomfortable getting a referral from someone in their network. There's all of these other people that aren't just direct referrals that are doing searches, whether it's research searches or direct business lookup searches. And so again, I think that the point here is that to think about this, it's not referrals or digital, or referrals or ads, or referrals or direct response. These things work together, and it's appealing to the audience that you're trying to attract. And so when you dig a little deeper on this, how do they search? Again, about half use referral, about half searched on their own. But even the referrals, and this is the thing that lawyers that I talk to all the time struggle to get, is that even the referrals, they're happening online, right? And I'll show some examples of that when we dive into Facebook. But you can just go to, whether you go to Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever, and just start searching for lawyer referral right now, you'll see people likely that are asking for referrals, whether they're connected to you or not, depending on how your Facebook settings are set up. So the point is that the know, like, and trust that we talk about in historical marketing context, it's happening online too. And of course, there's a bunch of these other ways that people are finding and searching for lawyers. And we're going to talk about those ways as well. Another big finding from the Legal Trends Report is about the information that people want. This is the information that legal services consumers want. And so, of course, lawyers want to know about your experience, or legal services consumers want to know about your experience and your credentials. They want to know what types of case you're handles. That's kind of like, everybody knows that, right? But some of the other parts that you can really can be a competitive advantage is providing a clear understanding of the legal process, setting expectations, giving potential clients a very clear picture of what they can expect. Cost is another big one that we're not going to go deep on cost and pricing today. But the more transparency and clarity and expectation setting you can do at the beginning, all the way from your Google My Business listing to your website to video content that you might supply clients and potential clients, setting those expectations, giving a clear picture of what you do, why you do it, how you're uniquely qualified to help, the process that they can expect, how you're going to communicate with them. Those are the types of things that you want to be including in your digital presence, because again, setting those expectations early on is going to provide that better experience. It's going to reduce the friction. It's going to make them more likely to contact you, and it's going to give them a better experience throughout the process. Another thing that always comes up is, we talk to lawyers all the time about, marketing budgets. And, the classic thing is they don't teach, P&Ls in business and in most law schools. I think law schools are getting better about that. But understanding your budget, understanding your your income statement and what kind of resources you can allocate towards marketing is really an important start. And I'm not going to belabor this point too much. You can go to the SBA.gov. I'm sure the bar has a lot of information about coming up with budgets. But it's unrealistic to expect that you're not going to budget, whether it's time or money, into your business development and then expect that your business is going to grow. It's the professional services lawyers in particular have this idea where they want to dominate their market, but they don't want to spend anything on marketing or networking. And it doesn't have to be just money; it can be time as well. But start with a budget. Start with a budget that works within your P&L, and then decide. If you're brand new and you don't have a lot of money to spend, then you're going to be investing more in time. On the other hand, if you're a very busy lawyer, then you're going to be thinking about delegating and outsourcing some of that work. So don't forget, it's both money and also time. It's not just how much money you spend. The time that you spend on business development has a cost associated with it, and you should be thinking about that as you do your budget and planning. This is just a quick spreadsheet. There's all sorts of just marketing spreadsheets out there, budgeting spreadsheets out there. But as simple as just putting your marketing expenses in a spreadsheet and the time and money that you're going to spend. But have those targets in place, because that's the only way you're going to hold what you're doing or the money you're spending accountable for producing some kind of result. Keep track of that stuff. Okay, so let's start getting tactical. First biggest thing, if you do nothing else, if you're not into the web, if you're not going to use social media, if you're not going to do all the other stuff that we're going to talk about today, the one thing I highly encourage you to check out is Google My Business. And the reason being is because all those people that, whether they're looking you up by name, so if they're referred to you by a friend, they want to search for more information about you. Existing clients want to find information about you. They're going to type your name into Google. They're going to type your firm name into Google. And Google My Business is Google's free tool. It's totally free. That's going to be able to publish information about your business on Google. And if you just go to Google, you just search for Google My Business. There are guidelines about how to actually for publishing, whether you get a single listing for each location and a single practitioner listing. If it's brand new to you, I would just start with one for your office location. But I just want to kind of show you where Google My Business populates on a search result. So this is just an example for Atlanta DUI lawyer search. That green box at the top is ads. That's you pay Google for. That green one there that says the Dickerson firm DUI defense attorneys, that's a local ad. But that light blue listing, that local pack, that's Google My Business. There's a bunch of factors Google uses to decide who shows up there, but you don't pay Google for that. It's free, and it has a lot of primacy on the page, whether it's for this would be called a non-brand query because it's just city plus practice area plus lawyer. Same thing example for car accident lawyer near me with a Michigan example, again, ads on top, but those local pack listings below, that's where Google My Business populates. And if you look at a search on, this is just an example on my name, that big panel on the right, that also will show a lot of primacy. But one of the first places that you want to be thinking about from your web presence is doing searches on your name, because that's the most common way that no matter how people hear about you, they're likely to go to Google to look for more information. Even people that know you, they might even know what your website is. A lot of them are just going to search on your name to find your contact information, to find information about you, whether you're publishing, organizations you're part of, what clients have to say about you. And so there are a couple big things you want to be focusing on here. First is on your website, you should have a bio page, right? And that page should be titled with your name, probably your firm name. So this is just an example of mine with my name and my business on my bio page. And back to this point about social media, even if you don't use LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter, I encourage you to at least claim a profile on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is very likely to rank for searches on your name. So you go to LinkedIn, don't try to game it. Don't try to fill out Michigan divorce lawyer as your name to try to be like, oh, I want to try to capture that non-brand search. Just use your name, because you want to defend that space for searches on your name. It's very likely to populate. That third listing there is what it's called a domain of my name. I would say that's kind of a fallback. I don't think it's essential, but it's another great way to defend your real estate. So in my case, I registered the name keithsakalakis.com. And so when, my very unique name, that's very easy to rank for, people will find that, if you have a name that's more common, you might take out your name plus attorney.com or something like that. but controlling that real estate for brand searches is a really, really effective way to position yourself, control the results that come up, and defend against other listings that you might not want to have populated there. Some other examples there, Twitter also commands a lot of real estate. But again, whether you like Twitter or not, taking out a Twitter handle of your name is a great way to defend that real estate. And then just some other examples, publishing on other sites. As I mentioned, I'm a host of a podcast. Those are all ways that you can influence results for searches on your names, on your name. And then that big result on the right, that knowledge panel, another example of that being populated, that's Google My Business. So, for my business, you can see testimonials, address, hours of operation, phone numbers, an appointment link. You can add, there's a products and services section. All of these, all totally free and great way to communicate, reduce that friction, and provide a better experience so people don't have to spend a lot of time trying to see, where we are, driving directions, what people have to say about our services, as well as, frequently asked questions. So here's an example for Michigan Auto Law, attorney firm in Michigan. And as you can see, pictures of the firm. There's places you can add videos to your Google My Business listing. You can see reviews. Since COVID, they've updated some service options to be able to describe whether you offer online appointments. That was a big thing. It's probably going to be a big thing again as we deal with this Delta variant. But if someone's searching for your name and they think they've got to come to your office, they might be reluctant to even contact you. If you offer online appointments and you put that designation in your Google My Business listing, that's something that's going to help reduce that friction, make them more comfortable. Hours of operation is a big one in certain contexts. So if you serve legal services consumers that might be searching for lawyers or looking for information about you that might not be working hours, you might consider expanding your hours. There's some guideline rules about that. Big thing there is like you have to have somebody be able to answer the phone and do intake in off hours. But again, that can be a competitive advantage. Health and safety information, and then popular times and stuff like that. So it's a really, really powerful tool. Before people even get to your website, lawyers spend a lot of money on some of these websites. And a lot of the decisions that legal services consumers are making happen before someone even clicks through to your website. It's happening right on the search result page. Here's an example of a lawyer from that firm. Again, I mentioned you get a practitioner listing, but same type of thing. It humanizes. You see a picture, you can see a video. If you click into it, lawyer can just kind of describe like what they do, why they do it, who they help. All this information available, before you even click through the website. Really, really powerful tool, all completely free to do. And again, this is just an example of it showing up in local pack. So for those non-branded searches, very prominent on a page. If you do a search, this kind of search on a phone, whether you just take your practice area plus lawyer or city plus practice area and lawyer on a phone, you'll see these map pack listings come up. That's all powered by Google My Business. Another example I just wanted to show real quick. This is just starting a lawyer's search on Google. You'll see that Google starts to populate the search name before you even click through to it. So again, those are the types of things that are really, really important for you to control that real estate, because it's helping those consumers navigate to find information for the lawyer that they're looking for. In this case, Ken's also holding a book that he published. So there's ways that you can demonstrate your professional expertise just through the imagery and videos that you're using. Really effective way, and again, completely free to be able to do. And as I mentioned, if you click into Google My Business profile, you can have videos. And so, of course, following the ethics rules and getting consent, it's a great place to have client testimonials, clients singing your praises, other lawyers, other professional service providers, referral sources, publishing videos on your Google My Business. Again, all of these things validate your reputation for expertise as well as for great client service right there before people even get to your website. And again, all free except for the time to actually record those videos and then post them. Okay, questions and answers section in your Google My Business profile. This is a great place to add things like driving directions, things that you hear, frequently asked questions that clients are asking you all the time. It's good for them because it reduces the friction. They don't even have to ask you, and it's good for you too because now it's more efficient. They're not asking that question; they can get answers right there, and that you can actually self-populate questions. So it'll just, if you go in through your own Google My Business profile and ask a question, you can respond to it as a business owner. So it's a good way to seed questions. It won't show that you're asking the question, but it will show that you're answering it. And so again, it shows that you're engaged, you care about providing that kind of information. Really effective in terms of helping reduce some of that friction. And you'll notice there on the left for a search on this firm's name, Facebook page, that's another page that shows up very prominently. They're using aggregate review markup, so you get the little stars in the result. Again, all great validation for this firm's reputation. And this is just an example of the question and answer. So, a very simple one, what type of cases you take, you can respond talking about who you help, how you help them, why you're uniquely qualified to help. Provides a lot of clarity. So, people are getting these answers to these questions before they even get to your website or even give you a call. Another tool is this, they changed the name of it. I think it's called Marketing Kit with Google now. It used to be Small Thanks with Google, but essentially what you can do is you can take testimonials, reviews that are on your Google My Business profile and turn them into posters that you can use, both in your office, but also digitally in social media and also on Google My Business. So here's an example that we did for our firm. We just take a testimonial, you plug it into this tool, and the tool will send you back imagery, zip, and you can actually order if you want the physical copies of it. But you can use these testimonials right inside your Google My Business post section. And so when people search on your firm, this will show up alongside your firm information in that knowledge panel on that right-hand side. So it's a great way to grab some attention and highlight some of your clients singing your praises right there on the result. Again, free before it even gets to your website. Another thing that this isn't we're not going to go deep on tracking and measurement, but I do think, holding your marketing time and money accountable is important. And so one thing you can do is using a call tracking number in your Google My Business listing. This will allow you to isolate calls that are coming directly from that listing. And so it validates the time that you're spending on claiming this listing. If you're paying someone to help you with this stuff, it validates the time there. But you can track the individual phone calls that are coming from Google My Business. And I can tell you that this was shocking to me when this tool first became available, because I thought, most people are going to want to click through to the website, read more about the lawyer. And in certain practice areas, you do see that. But in a lot of this direct response, consumer facing practice areas, personal injury, criminal defense, DUI, family law, people will call right from the result before they even click through. They're making their decision based on hours of operation, category, reviews, right inside the listing. And then again, so if you're going to do the call tracking number in GMB, the kind of the best practice here is to use the call tracking number as your primary, and then use your real local business number as the additional phone. For those that might be a little more experienced with like local SEO, there's this concern about NAP consistency, which is name, address, phone consistency. If you do it like this, we've been doing this for years, it doesn't create a problem with NAP consistency. And it really does give you granular information about the performance of your Google My Business listing. And then again, if we use CallRail, which is just a phone tracking software, but essentially what you can see is like, hey, these calls came directly from my Google My Business listing versus clicking through my website. And so again, being able to measure the effectiveness of what you're doing online, I think is a big part of the equation that it's important to be able to go back to, hey, I'm spending time and money on this. Is this actually working? Another tool that's completely free is Google Search Console. So Search Console, it's kind of like Google Analytics, but it's basically your window into the types of keywords people are using to find your business. And so another thing that we like to do is to add this UTM parameter to the end of your website listing in your Google My Business listing. And what that will do, if you couple this UTM parameter with Search Console, this is just a tool of how to do this. It's, again, completely free. The link's in there. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but you have it there, and you will be able to get access to the deck. And I think maybe the recording as well. But you can create these UTM parameters, and then if you put that in your Google My Business listing, you can actually see not just the calls, but the people that actually click through to your website from Google My Business. And then you can start to say, okay, now I've got a very good picture of both the call performance and the click performance. And once you have click performance, now you can actually measure forms back to your site. And so if you integrate Google Analytics goal tracking, you can track phone calls and form fills from Google My Business back through all the way to your phone and through your analytics and ideally back to your practice management tool. And now you've really closed the loop on understanding the performance of your marketing, all the way from the initial search all the way through to whether it's live chat requests, phone calls, whatever you're using to capture intake information on your website. And then if you use Search Console, now you can go in and actually see the queries that people are using to find you. And so this is an example from a bankruptcy firm in New York, but you can actually see, so impressions are just the number of times that your listing showed up in a search. And for that particular query, which is just another word for keyword, and what the average position was that you showed up. So in this example, we're seeing, okay, this firm showed up in the local pack, because this is just the UTM parameter for the local pack, for bankruptcy attorney 1,387 times, and they were average in position 1. And so now when you see those impressions and positions, this can actually also help you inform your content strategy. So if you start to see places where the impressions are high, but your position's low, you're probably going to want to start publishing more content on those topics with those queries, whether it's on your website or on other sites that you might be contributing to, because you've already validated there's actually search volume for it. So, you don't have to guess like, hey, is this the way people are searching? You can actually see that there's already impression data for this. We know people are searching on it. Great way to shape your strategy from a publishing standpoint. Another thing to keep in mind is, in terms of accountability and measuring, is you can see the number of times people are searching on your firm name or your name. And so if you're doing brand campaigns, right, you're doing demand generation, maybe you're doing digital demand generation, you're showing a lot of ads, maybe you're a TV advertiser, you can track the performance of your brand growth because you can see over time the number of times people are searching on your name or your firm name and clicking through. And so that's very valuable in terms of understanding that brand recognition or awareness that people talk about. And if you're spending time on brand development, if you're spending money on brand development, it's a great way to track the organic search growth of those searches for your name. Again, just an example, so you can isolate it for that specific GMB. You can do it for your website URL, your appointment URL. You can also have separate UTM parameters for your posts, so you can see which Google posts that you put in Google My Business are performing the best. And so again, like everything else, it's kind of trial and error, test some things. The ones that are attracting more clicks, those messages are resonating. And so that CTR column there, it says 0.2, that's just click-through rate. That's the number of impressions versus the number of clicks. And tracking what's performing from a higher CTR, just like you would treat it with ads, you keep trying to beat that and improve that CTR, because that's what's demonstrating that those messages that you're showing are resonating with your audience and people are clicking through. So just another example of some of the searches from our business, but trying to beat those CTRs and improve those positions, that's kind of the game there. And it can really help to shape your publishing strategy, content strategy on your website. We actually offer a free guide. Again, I'll make sure you have the link to this. It's in the deck, but if it doesn't work, I'll make sure that Joanne has a link, or you can get my contact information that basically walks you through how to tackle all that stuff. So a couple of things when you're thinking about Google My Business that are important to think about. Obviously, reviews, it all starts with that great service. It doesn't matter what your review system is. We use GatherUp, which it helps to nurture people through the review process. But you got to start with providing great service. That's what's really going to stand out to folks. Making sure you get that category right, because if the category doesn't match, someone that is searching for one type of lawyer, if your category doesn't line up, they're not going to contact you. Hours of operation, and then these enhancements, things like the on-site services. Again, it's all free. But the point of this slide is to demonstrate, go do searches that are relevant to your practice and see what your competition's doing, because that's what your consumers your next clients are going to see, right? They're going to be comparing your listing to the other listings in the pack. And so if you can find a competitive advantage, whether it's, maybe you offer online appointments and competition doesn't, maybe you have expanded hours or some kind of other enhancement. And of course, reviews is a big one there. That's the way to kind of do that competitive intelligence to see how you're going to stack up in those searches. Again, you don't pay for any of this, but just to get a sense, if you look at these three listings here, you've got number of years in business. That's going to play a role. That second firm doesn't provide on-site services. So all this stuff is just to help you get a sense of understanding what you should be looking for when you're comparing yourself to the competition. See how your listing looks compared to your competitors. Another thing that a lot of people don't realize is that there are actually filters in the local pack. So when you click into a local PatMac result, you can filter by who's available online, distance, whether you're open, ratings. And so remember that legal services consumers, they're not just looking at that search result, they're clicking into it, they're going to do filters. Obviously, the more that you can compete with your availability online, and when you're open and your rating based on your reviews, those are all going to be important factors to consider in terms of competing with the other listings in those packs. And so this is just an example of another a post enhancement. But if you see the how should I hire a digital legal marketing agency, that's an enhancement that comes from one of the posts that we wrote. So in Google My Business, there's a post feature. So if you're talking about, an example in your context, maybe like how should you hire a blank lawyer, right? Putting that in a post, maybe you have a post on your website that talks about that. That's how it's just going to generate that result. And again, providing transparency, helping legal services consumers through that hiring journey, helping them understand how you help, how you're uniquely qualified to help. Those things can help you really stand out on a search result page. And this is just an example of what the posts look like in the local finder. So this is just examples from our business, but we highlight things that we're doing in the community. If we're doing a speaking engagement, here's an example for Michigan Auto Law. They offer a scholarship. There's some of their contents there. This kind of stuff really jumps off the page. It's image driven. You can do highlight good works you're doing in your community service projects, how you're giving back. All those are the types of things that people want to see when they're making that decision to hire an attorney. I mentioned this before, but the Q&A photos and videos, these are all really important ways to humanize. A lot of people, if they haven't had an experience working with a lawyer, or they haven't met you, they're dealing with something that's really difficult, maybe like the worst time of their life. The more that you can help to reduce that friction, answer their questions, let people know what it's like to work with you through these questions and answers, through the images that you use, through the videos that you use, the higher your conversion rate or the number of people that are going to actually contact you from these listings is going to be. We see it over and over again. If it's just a faceless logo, if there's no pictures of the actual lawyers or happy clients or testimonials, you're just not going to command the same kind of attention online as the firms that are actually doing that from a competitive standpoint. So we talked a little bit about analytics. There's a lot to go over on analytics. I'm not going to go too deep in it. I did want to highlight that analytics has a very robust help section. So if this stuff's all brand new to you, I would start there with understanding how analytics works. That's really going to help you understand how people are finding your website and how they're using it. It also helps you understand how to set it up. But if you want to get to a place where you can close the loop on your digital presence, again, totally free, analytics is the place to start. It tracks the people that come to your website. You can also configure goals. Some of the common goals that we like to use are web forms, first-time callers. That filters out like repeat callers. So if people are, if opposing counsel calls you or the court calls you a lot, those calls get filtered out. And so it gives you good directional indicator of whether or not you're growing the number of people who are finding your site and contacting you and how they're interacting with it. But again, it all goes back to that same experience. If you find yourself generating a lot of visits, if you're working with an agency and you're getting a lot of visitors, but it's not turning into phone calls or form fills and clients, this is a way for you to help to understand what's going on your site, tracking that, measure it, holding your time and money accountable. This is not a free, this is a, it's in the grand scheme of things, it can be affordable. It's called Google Local Services Ad, but I would be remiss if I didn't bring it up because it does command such high visibility on a search result page. And it also comes with this Google guaranteed, Google screened endorsement. It's pay per lead. So you do pay Google for people that actually contact you. If someone calls outside of your practice area, they have a return system. But again, if you're a little bit more sophisticated, or you have a little bit more budget, this is something to try. But if you see where these show up on the results for non-brand queries, they're very prominent. So it's worth me at least calling out for those that are interested in pursuing this. But again, not free. But in the grand scheme of things, from our experience working with LSAs, the cost per lead can actually be a lot lower than it is for the traditional Google ads. And so if you've been a Google advertiser in pay-per-click, it might be something to check out now. Again, firm name, reviews, years in business, all right there for those non-brand queries. So if you have an appetite for more potential clients right now, that might be something that you might check out and invest in is local services ads. And again, just another example of that with the Google screen. So, again, legal service consumers, they see that Google screen button. It's like, wow, that's like an endorsement from Google. I'm not going to get into the debate about all the ethics of Google screening. That's for the state bar regulators to figure out, but at least I wanted to bring it to your attention because it is so prominent on those result pages. All right, let's talk about Facebook. Again, if you never use Facebook, you hate Facebook for a variety of reasons, which is totally understandable, at least I would encourage you to get a business page. So not a profile, but an actual business page. You can do one for your firm. You can do one for you as if you're a solo practitioner, or even if you're at a firm, you can have one for yourself as well. But the key here is that this is a business page, not a profile. And the reason that that matters is because these business pages are what tend to get indexed and ranked prominently for searches on your name. They also have a review feature there as well. So you can send happy clients to Facebook pages to review. And again, it validates that. It also will often show up in your knowledge panel, your reviews from Facebook, because it's so there's so much, Google gives it a lot of authority. And again, that's a totally free thing for you to do. It's just the time to set up the page, add your name to it, add your information to it, and then start sending happy clients to that. Great way for brand defense, very prominent. As I mentioned at the outset, people are asking for recommendations on Facebook. Every single day, if I type in lawyer recommendation or variations of that in Facebook, I see these recommendations. I'm not encouraging you to go solicit clients by searching for lawyer recommendations and responding. But if you need validation for this is the type of thing that you might want to keep your eyes peeled, or have somebody at your firm that's going to monitor social media to see if there are people in your network that are looking for referrals. Again, completely free. There are also private groups. Maximum Lawyers, one that does a particularly good job. Finding those affinity audiences we talked about at the outset, that Seth Godin talks about. Call them clusters, affinity audiences, whatever you want. Professional groups. Maximum Lawyer is a good one. Lawyer to lawyer referrals going on Facebook. You want to be a part of those conversations. If you're not part of any of these groups, maybe you start with some of the groups that you're already familiar with, organizations, maybe the state bar, maybe it's a nonprofit that you're passionate about, maybe you're a youth sports coach. There's all of these groups, people that are aggregating around these common passions online. That's the place you want to be involving in conversations, because those are the relationships you want to start to be nurturing online. You can do it from the comfort of your own home as opposed to having to go to a networking event. Videos on Facebook are also very powerful. Video is really eating the web. I would say that if you're going to do nothing else besides Google My Business, I would invest in some videos. You don't have to go get fancy videos produced. In fact, you can do a really nice job even with your iPhone. And they tend to come across even more authentic than some of the highly produced videos. But getting information on your Google My Business listing on your Facebook page that again highlights what you do, who you help, how you're uniquely qualified to help. In some practice areas, I see folks that will do like legislative updates, demonstrating your expertise, not giving legal advice, but talking about issues in the video format really does help to humanize you as a lawyer, as well as demonstrate what you're an expert about. We talked a little bit about the affinity audiences. Just another example. Ken and Jay at Levinson and Stephanie in Chicago, they like to eat lunch at popular spots in Chicago. And so they'll film themselves having their working lunches. They put that on their Facebook page. You can see the engagement rates are pretty good. People really do enjoy the videos. And that's another thing too, is that lawyers tend to think that everything they post online has to be the subject matter expertise stuff. It really doesn't. Some of that stuff's important. You want to be able to obviously demonstrate your expertise, but people aren't on Facebook to see that all the time, right? They're much more interested in seeing, like, these are private groups. Chicagoland Food Lovers is a group. They post these videos in there. People gravitate to them. They connect with them. They ask for, they get questions like, hey, when's your next video coming out? This is the kind of stuff that people want to see. They know it's on the firm page. They know that these guys are lawyers. It's much more about using that network effect to get engagement, to get people sharing, talking about, commenting. That's how you really take advantage of the virality of the social media platform. Another one I want to talk about really quickly is LinkedIn. So for years, LinkedIn was very overlooked. I would say this, I think in the professional referral setting, LinkedIn is extremely powerful. There's this concept of social proof, but when people get your name, Another place they're likely to go is to look you up on LinkedIn, and they want to see if you've got mutual connections, right? Because they want to ask, hey, I see that you know so and so. I see that we have this mutual connection. What was it like working with them? And so this social proof is really, really valuable. Again, the profile setup, imagery, cover page. If you have a profile and there's no image and there's no information there, you're not regularly updating. It just kind of looks like you're kind of like an absentee landlord for your LinkedIn. You're not going to get the same kind of connections. It's not going to be as valuable of a tool for you. Again, if you can click in and actually see the people that you're mutually connected to, those are the types of things that are very validating. I mean, it's really powerful to say, oh, hey, I know Ken, and so do these people. Let me see what their experience was. It just makes you, it's that social proof, that mutual connection that really validates that you're someone that can be trusted to be contacted. LinkedIn also has a recommendations feature similar to reviews. They also have an endorsement thing. I know there's some ethics issue around the endorsement stuff. Recommendations, I kind of look at it the same way as a testimonial. I don't recommend doing quid pro quo recommendations, like contacting your friends and saying, hey, give me a recommendation, I'll recommend you. But adding this to your mix of like when happy clients they're like, hey, how can I help you out? Well, a lot of our business is referral based. If you'd be willing to go on LinkedIn and leave a recommendation, I'd greatly appreciate that kind of stuff. It's very, very powerful in terms of validating your reputation for great client experience. LinkedIn also has video. One other thing I want to mention on video is to make sure that you're adding captions. Most people, when they're scrolling in their feed, they're not actually watching videos with sound. And so for them to see what you're actually saying, it's really important to add those captions. It's also good practice from an accessibility standpoint. And so when you're adding native videos, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube, Facebook actually has auto-generated captions, so you just need to edit them. YouTube, you can use a tool like rev.com. They'll do the transcriptions and captions for you. But again, this video content where you're talking about what you do, why you do it, who you help, how you help them, interesting things that are happening in your community. That's the kind of stuff that people want, and you can measure the performance of it by the engagement that it gets in terms of likes, comments, and shares. Okay, we're going to move on to MailChimp. So I keep saying this, so I'm losing credibility. But one more thing that if you do nothing else, you should do is probably email marketing. And I don't mean sending out a monthly firm newsletter. I mean regularly staying in touch with contacts in your network, whether it's former clients, whether it's other colleagues and referral sources. Maybe it's subscribers that like to get updates from, maybe you do, like I mentioned before, I see people do like practice updates or legislative updates. But this is the inbox is kind of like the last bastion you have of not getting bombarded with advertising. I say that, people laugh because they're like, well, I get spam in my email all the time. But if you do it right, if you get people to opt in, they want to receive messaging from you, and you think about it more like staying in touch, staying top of mind, as opposed to trying to like push newsletters and firm news all the time on people, you'll see that this is probably one of the most effective ways to keep people in your network connected. And so there's a variety of tools you can use. MailChimp just happens to be particularly affordable. But the buzzword here, the search term here is email marketing software, marketing automation software. There's all sorts of stuff out there. I'm just going to talk through some of the basics on MailChimp. Most of these tools have the same kind of features. MailChimp just happens to be particularly affordable, so that's why I'm focused on them. So the email marketing game, MailChimp publishes stats on this, but some of the terms that you want to be looking at for measurement are open rates, click rates. Those are really the two kind of headliners. The other thing that you really want to see, though, is like response rates, because that's telling you if your audience is actually enjoying what they're receiving. And you can benchmark it against legal, but another thing I always tell people is don't get obsessed with these stats for legal performance, or if you see someone publishing these big reports, try to beat your own numbers, right? So if you've got a 21% open rate, maybe you're trying to do something to improve that. And again, I can tell you that the emails that get opened are not the firm newsletter, like boring type of stuff that we see. I mean, I'm subscribed to like 100 different law firm newsletters. The ones that get opened are the ones that are personalized. Maybe it's a holiday message. Maybe you've got it automated to send out an email on someone's birthday because that's in your contact records. Those are the types of things that people want to receive from you. They're very engaging. people are going to respond to them. They're going to thank you for them. Hey, thanks. I really appreciate the birthday message. We should go get together or hop on a Zoom, something like that. That's the way that we've really found email marketing works most effectively. Okay, so a little bit of technical stuff here, because people will say things like, well, what happens if I don't have the person's name in my they're on I have their email, but they're not in my contact list with the name. There's all sorts of things the tools you can use, things like conditional merge tags. MailChimp has lots of documentation on this, so I'm not going to go deep on this. But you can show different messages based on information you have. So this example here, if you don't have the firm name, you can do this quick little conditional format. They'll say, address them as their firm name. If there is no firm name, just say friend, something like that. And so making sure that your emails are personalized and authentic and don't feel like email marketing, that's really the message here. And doing things like conditional conditional formatting can help a lot with that. A couple questions I thought I'd just hop into while we've got them up. On videos, do you upload to YouTube or Vimeo or specific to the platforms such as Facebook and LinkedIn? Great question. I've used videos in all of those places. And so there are some SEO types of things you can be thinking about in terms of where you upload them. I tend to like to put the video self-hosted on my site, but then also put it on Facebook and LinkedIn in particular. YouTube can be great, but again, you got to understand the platform, right? So not every video is going to be perfect for Facebook and YouTube. Ken and Jay do the food thing. That's the type of thing on YouTube. Like they have a channel or a playlist that's actually about the food. That makes a lot of sense, but they still post those videos on other places. So I say the more the merrier in general. From an SEO perspective, there's some strategic ideas about in terms of like the difference between embedding a YouTube on your site versus just self-hosting it. But I say spread it around. The more views, the more visibility you're getting. Keep in mind that YouTube's owned by Google, and so Google gives YouTube a little bit of favorability in search results. So that's another little nugget for putting it on YouTube. But I say post it in more places than less. Do you recommend setting up a channel and then linking to it all? If you're going to be committed to it, again, I think YouTube is a social network from a channel standpoint. So if you're going to be committed to regularly posting videos on a YouTube channel, I think it can be really effective. I've seen some firms that they do all these, really entertaining videos. They get lots of views, lots of awareness. It's not direct response at all. It's not, free consultation or this is what I do. It's like stuff they're out having lunch, they're doing funny things. Like that's the stuff that people want. Is there a standard CTR for the legal industry? It's a great question. And I would say no. It's really much more context specific because the CTR is click-through rate. So it's all about the relevance, right? So like here's a very easy example. Brand click-through rates tend to be a lot higher than non-brand. And why is that? Because someone that's searching for you by name is much more likely to click on something because they're looking specifically for you than if they're searching for like car accident lawyer. And then it also depends if you're talking about ad click-through rate or you're talking about organic click-through rate or you're talking about social click-through rate. So I wouldn't say that there's a standard click-through rate, but the goal is to be trying to grow that click-through rate. I think if from an ads context, just off the top of my head, if you really want to twist my arm, I think if you're around 3% for non-brand in the ad context, you're in pretty good shape, 3 to 5%. I would say on brand, you're probably looking at more like 10. It obviously depends on a bunch of other factors. And so I don't mean to dodge the question, but it's really much more content and context specific than just saying that there's a standard click-through rate for the legal industry. Okay, thanks for those questions. Really appreciate it. Back to the MailChimp thing. So for example, even if you don't have the information, you can go post a message to request the information. So, maybe you go to an event and a bunch of people like hand out business cards and they sign up to be added to a list or something like that. You can request information from a message, and it's something like MailChimp or one of these marketing automation tools, they'll handle adding it to your database. And so next time when you use that merge tag, it'll actually just populate their information. Again, MailChimp has all the how-tos on this. These are very common questions I get asked all the time. And so folks tend to get overwhelmed. It's like, oh, I've only got their email. And so how do I personalize it? There's ways to do it. You just got to spend a little time. Maybe it's a weekend project for you to learn. But it's a good use of your time if this is the kind of thing that you're going to take on yourself, or maybe you delegate it to a support person at your firm if you have a marketing person, or you outsource it. Good conversation to be having with the people who are handling your emails if you outsource it. So what do we automate? I tend to like emails on birthdays, specific dates, recurring dates. The birthday one's kind of a no-brainer. Specific. We always like to do Happy New Year emails. 4th of July emails. Although even now 4th of July is contentious. But Labor Day, maybe Happy Halloween. Those are kind of like the generic ones that are, they're still personalized because you can still address the person and just, a quick message wishing you Happy New Year. You might also have other things. So in certain practice areas, it might make sense to send them an anniversary of some kind of life event. Maybe it's a kid's birthday, stuff, but the more personal you make them, the better they perform. And again, this can be automated as long as you can collect that information in MailChimp. You can set up triggers so that it fires off on those specific dates. But the difference you see, it's very stark, because if you send out an email newsletter and you see a bunch of people unsubscribe from it, not many people open it, not many people click through, and then you send a Happy New Year email and everybody's opening it, you're getting people responding saying thanks, have a great year. And that top of mind awareness, that regular engagement, that's really what helps people make choices to both refer you to your next client and also hire you again. And so just kind of showing you, if you go search on MailChimp, creating an email automation, the recurring dates and the specific dates, those are the ones that we really like to focus on. And they perform really, really well. The last thing I wanted to mention in our remaining time is CRM. Full disclosure, I admitted that I am advisor to Lawmatics. There are a bunch of different CRM solutions you can use. Even MailChimp is quasi CRM. We've also used ActiveCampaign. You might have heard of HubSpot. Tends to be a little more expensive. But the point is that your CRM, your client relationship management tool, is really a cornerstone of how you're going to stay top of mind from a digital standpoint. And so they have all these types of conditions and triggers that you can send. And again, you got to make sure that people have opted in to receive this kind of messaging. But these are the types of things that it's very easy to set up the opt-in process. Like, hey, if you want to receive text messages from us, but text is a particularly powerful one to stay top of mind. It's likely in your own life experience that you find yourself using a lot of text messaging. Again, I wouldn't be delivering legal services necessarily through text message, but automating and firing off a text message when it's, Happy New Year text message, really, really powerful, great way to stay top of mind. Great way to nurture that relationship with both former clients, new clients, referral sources, and a lot of that stuff can be automated. And so, I say automation and people get kind of freaked out by it because they think, oh, it's going to feel like spam. It's not going to feel authentic. Shop your automations. Obviously, make sure that your automations feel seamless. But there are a lot of things that automations can do, and that will make things much more efficient for you, feel seamless to the user. And again, they'll give you positive feedback about it. Another one that I like to see, we talked about from the Clio report, keeping people up to date with what's going on in the process of the representation. Maybe you fire off a text message that has a YouTube video talking about the discovery process. Again, not specific to their case, but just an overview, right? Or, hey, we're getting ready to do depositions. Here's some information about your deposition. Whether you make those videos private or public, you can determine that, but it's a great way to nurture that professional relationship throughout the process. A video that's just a Happy New Year video, right? So they click on it, they get a text message, you click a link, and it's you on video saying, wishing them a Happy New Year. That's the kind of stuff that really helps you stand out, provide remarkable service, motivates people to sing your praises. I see this all the time where people be like, oh, hey, I knew this person really had their system locked down because their onboarding process as a client was so professionally done. And that's the kind of thing that really resonates with clients and helps them to refer you. Yep, I was asked if we do Google My Business Management services. We do. Feel free to contact me. But again, the real point of this is that this is a lot of this stuff you can do on your own, completely free. It's just the time that it takes to set it up and monitor it. So that's really what I wanted to cover today. You can check out the Learning Center there in Lawmatics. And at this time, I would love to field any additional questions that you have. I really do appreciate the questions so far, and thank you so much for attending.
Guy, it looks like we have concluded our programming for today. We do not have any further questions in the pod. And I think that's because you have covered so much information today. That was just wonderful, and thank you. So again, I'd like to thank our speaker, Guy Sakalakis, for a wonderful program, and thanks to all of you for attending. Your feedback is important to us, and we would appreciate it if you complete a short survey that will populate your screen when we close the session today. With that, thank you again for joining the State Bar of Michigan virtual seminar.